All right, 10Cs. We spent a little bit of a long video last lesson looking at volume calculations and understanding the volume of a prism is based on the area of the base. Whatever base kind you have, you need the area of it and multiply by the height of it. Whereas the volume of a pyramid is almost identical, except we want 1/3 of the area of the base times the height. And remember, B has to change each time depending upon what kind of shape we have. If I had a square prism, well, if it's a square, my big B, because it's a square base, I could call it, it would be S squared for the square times the height of it. If I had a square pyramid, remember a pyramid we talked about has the apex. Opposite the apex is your base. So if I had a square pyramid, it would be 1/3 square base, S squared, times the height. And remember, height of a pyramid is the vertical height of it. It's not the slant height. Remember, this slant height is used for surface area. So that's the key. What we're going to look at today is those lovely questions where we have unknown dimensions in an object if we're given the volume. So let's jump into it. Well, it's not a lot different. We still want the formula. I can't ask you enough. Start with that general formula like I just reviewed, and then go to specific. Make sure you know, do we 1/3 or not 1/3? Then change your big B to the specific. It's just going to eliminate errors. When we substitute in, the big difference is now volume can be subbed in because volume will be given. We'll have an unknown dimension. One of our variables will remain, whether it's the side length or the height, whatever. But volume now can be subbed in. And we solve, gonna have to do a little bit of algebra. Because we need to solve for an unknown, given the volume, some algebra to isolate it. So let's just work through a couple examples. So here we have rectangular prism. Right away, all right, we're dealing with the prism. Volume will be area of my base times height. What kind of prism do we have? We have a rectangular based prism. So that means my big B is a rectangle, my base, so I want to use LW because it's a rectangle base times the height, which is what we're trying to calculate in this case. We know length and width, we don't know height. But like I showed over here, the key is, excuse me, my volume I do know. There's my volume. So I can start my substitution process by putting the volume in. And the volume will equal the length, 18, times the width, 32, times the height, which we don't know. There's our unknown. So to solve, always do whatever multiplying you can. We have 4,838.4. And when I multiply over on that side, the 18 times 32 times h, well, I know that I can get 576 h. 18 times 32 is 576 times the h. And now we solve for h. They're attached by multiplying. So we're going to divide by 576 and divide by 576. And that will isolate the h, which is what we're trying to find. So when we do that calculation, we end up with 8.4, and these units are centimeters equal to h. I don't need to cube it because this isn't the volume, this is just the height. and the height is 8.4. Start with your formulas. General formula, make sure. Go to your specific formula, change your B. Substitute in, substituting in volume, which is different. And then everyone's favorite, a little bit of algebra. Take a look at the next one. Here we go. Same kind of process. Well, what's important? Volume's given. What do we have? Well, it's not an apex. We have a triangular prism. We have a triangle stacked a whole bunch of times to create a 3D solid. So it's a big BH. So, formula, it's a triangle base, so instead of big B, 5/10 base times height for the triangle times the height of the actual prism is what we're trying to find. Substitute in, volume's given, 5/10. Base of our triangle is 8. Height of our triangle is 11. And the height of the prism is unknown. So not a lot different than the previous example. A little nicer than surface area because there's not as many parts. What can we do to solve? Multiply what you can. 704 equals half times 8 times 11, which is 44, and we still have times h. How do we get h by itself? We divide by 44. So 704 divided by 44, we get 16 equal to h, and that would be centimeters. The height of this prism is 16 centimeters. It's nice. Formulas aren't as big. Little bit of algebra still. Just know that the volume can be substituted in. Give this one a try. Stop the video. Give it a try on your own. See what you come up with, and then come back and we'll do it together. So with this one, what's the shape we have? Well, it's a cylinder. Cylinder is a circular prism. And because it's a circular prism, the base is a circle, we know our big B can be a pi r squared circle times then the height of the prism. This particular question is asking for the radius. So that's what we don't know. I want to substitute in though. There's our volume. If we have an unknown dimension, we have to have the volume given to us. Pi times r squared, because we don't know r, and times the height of the prism, which we can see is 4. Now this one's a little trickier for a couple reasons. When I multiply over here, what can be multiplied? You don't have to multiply necessarily in order. Order doesn't matter. We can go pi times 4 times r squared, so I can multiply my pi times 4, which is going to give me, oh, I got to check it, sorry, should have done this ahead of time. We end up with 12.57 times r squared. Pi times 4 is 12.57, and we still have the r squared. Now we need to get r by itself. It's easiest to get rid of this 12.57 first. They're attached by multiplying, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 12.57. When I do that, I end up with a value of 84.6141, so on, and I don't want to round yet. I can leave it like that. But how do I get r by itself? If you want to get rid of a squared, remember you always finish by square rooting. So make sure you square root. When you square root that value, we end up with r equal to 9.2 meters. So we get a radius of 9.2 meters in this situation. Formula still doesn't change. Prism, specific, substitute in, including the volume, multiply what you can, isolate the r. Unique here because it's an r squared. We always need the square root to get rid of the square. Last example, this is going to just require some practice. This one's a little different. Again, stop the video, give it a try, and then we'll talk. So, fourth example, what's the big difference here? Oh, I hope you didn't miss the fact that we have an apex pyramid. So this time, we have to make sure we use the 1/3. It's a pyramid. Volume of a pyramid is a third area of the base times height. That's why we need to put that general formula first. It's a thinker step. But I still don't want big B. What kind of base do we have? What's across from our apex? Well, it's a rectangle. So LW and then times the height. What's a little tricky? Look at that sketch. What's tricky there? What's something you might get caught by? Well, we have two heights. We have the 9 feet and we have the 9.5 feet. Which one's no good to us right now? The 9.5 feet's no good because that's the slant height. That would be useful for surface area. We want the vertical height 9 feet. Volume's given. 132.3 is 1/3 times the length. Well, which one's length, which one's width? They're interchangeable. I'm going to solve for the width here. Length is 7, width we don't know, and the height we just talked about of the pyramid is 9 feet. So we have 132.3. What can I multiply here? 1/3 times 7 times 9. That leaves us with 21W. At that point, divide by 21, and we get 132.3 divided by the 21, and we get a width of 6.3 feet. There's the width of our rectangular pyramid. Again, volume. Volume is, after surface area, volume I think is relatively straightforward, but you need to keep 1/3 BH or BH straight, and you need to practice. Nice, concise little formulas. Easy to work with compared to what other things we've done, but you need to practice. So, from yesterday, booklet pages 45 to 47. Don't worry about question 2. Otherwise, if you finished yesterday's assignment or last lesson's assignment, it's not going to be a whole bunch. If you haven't, here's some more time. Practice this volume. Take advantage of it because it's fairly straightforward. Have a great day.